All right, so let's dive into Genesis chapter 10. It's often called the Table of Nations, and honestly, at first glance, it just looks like a long, kind of dry list of names, a genealogy. But what if it's way more than that? What if it's actually a map? A political and historical map that sets the stage for pretty much every major conflict and empire to come. So how does a simple family tree turn into a blueprint for war? Well, the whole world, after the flood, comes from Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, the text mentions Japheth's kids spreading out, but then the camera really zooms in on 2 of the brothers. Their family trees don't just record history, they basically chart its entire course, drawing the battle lines for centuries. So let's kick things off with the line of Ham. This is a lineage that right away establishes itself as a huge source of earthly power. And as we're about to see, it also produces some of the most famous antagonists in the entire story.
And boom, right out of the gate, we meet this towering figure who comes from Ham's son, Cush, a guy named Nimrod. And his arrival? It's a massive turning point for the whole post-flood world.
He began to be a mighty one on the earth. Now, that's not just some casual compliment. That phrase is a huge deal. It's signaling the start of a brand new kind of human power, this centralized, dominant authority all wrapped up in one really formidable leader. And this famous line, it literally became a saying, like a proverb. It totally cemented Nimrod's reputation as this legendary figure of strength and skill. He was the guy everyone knew about. But Nimrod wasn't just famous for being a strong guy. No, he was an empire builder. He's the one who founded the first kingdoms, setting up some of the most powerful and ancient cities the world had ever seen, like Babel, all there in the land of Shinar. Okay, so you have this source of incredible earthly power, but here's the twist. From that exact same line of Ham, the text sows the seeds for future conflict, and it gets very specific about 2 key groups who are going to become major antagonists down the road. Yep, the narrative draws a straight, direct line from Ham to 2 of the most relentless adversaries that the nation of Israel will ever face. And this isn't an accident. It's foundational. It's telling us that the conflicts of the future have their roots right here, in the earliest days of humanity. And look how precise it is. The lineage is laid out step by step. Ham has a son named Mizraim, Mizraim has a descendant named Casluhim, and out of that family line come the Philistines, the famous seafaring warrior people. And it's the exact same story for the Canaanites. Ham's youngest son, Canaan, becomes the father of all these different tribes. You see some of them here, like the Amorites and the Hivites. And these are the very people who will spread out and occupy the lands that become so central to the whole drama.
So you see what's happening, right? A really clear contrast is being drawn. The line of Ham is all about earthly empire building and is the origin of future enemies. But what about his brother Shem? Well, his legacy is framed in a completely different and arguably much more important way.
Okay, so let's switch gears and look at the line of Shem. You can feel the focus of the text shift dramatically here. We're moving away from founding cities and toward a lineage that carries a totally different kind of significance. Instead of highlighting a mighty warrior like Nimrod, the text goes out of its way to identify Shem as the father of all the children of Eber. That name, Eber, is being spotlighted for a very specific reason. He is a critical link in this entire chain. And here's why he's so important. Eber isn't famous for building kingdoms on Earth. His significance comes from being a crucial ancestor in a spiritual lineage, the one that connects the ancient past directly to Abraham and way down the line to Jesus. This isn't the path of power, it's the path of promise. Now, stick with me, because tucked inside this line of promise, we find something really fascinating and mysterious. It's recorded during the life of Eber's son, and it's just a single cryptic verse that has had people talking for centuries.
So his son's name was Peleg, which literally means division. And the text tells us exactly why. For in his days, the earth was divided. Okay, but what on earth does that mean? What was divided?
And this is where the debate really begins. Was this some kind of literal, cataclysmic geological event where the continents actually split apart? Or was it a great social division, a separation of peoples, of languages, maybe even a hint at what happens later at the Tower of Babel? The text just leaves it there, this powerful mystery right in the middle of the line of promise. So here's the bottom line. Genesis 10 is so much more than an ancient census. Think of it as a theological map. It's laying out a world where earthly power and divine promise are put on a collision course right from the very beginning. It's establishing the origins of all these nations so we can understand what's really at stake in the stories to come. By understanding these origins, you've got Nimrod, the empire builder, the antagonists that come from Canaan, and the line of promise running through Eber. You basically have the who's who of the ancient world. So later, when these names reappear in conflicts and covenants, we'll know exactly where they came from and what they represent. The stage is officially set for the epic stories that are about to unfold.